events that shaped the music.
Rock and Roll Unraveled.
It includes the backgrounds to recording sessions, singles, album releases, births and deaths, epic concerts, and festivals.
Rock and Roll Unraveled.
Shelmerdine has made a painstaking effort to document pretty much every event that would prove significant in shaping popular music.
Rock and Roll Unraveled.
Purchase the book at www.rockandrollunraveled.com. Follow him at Twitter at R&R Unraveled, and look him up on Facebook at Rock and Roll Unraveled.
Rock and Roll Unraveled.
By author Derek Shelmerdine.
Available now.
You're listening to the John Lebang Show.
It's what's cool on radio.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, as we continue, I'm going to pick it up from where we left off, a little bit before anyways. According to the head of the FBI Counterintelligence Division, Assistant Director Bill Presap, corroboration of the Steele dossier was in its infancy at the time of the initial Page FISA application. After Steele was terminated, a source validation report conducted by an independent unit within the FBI assessed Steele's reporting as only minimally corroborated. Means they didn't really check into it. Oh, that's cool. That's exactly what we're looking for. We don't care if it's BS. We'll just use it so we can get some wiretapping going, because we got to do the work of, the FBI and the Department of Justice. It's interesting, ladies and gentlemen. We continue. Yet in early January 2017, Director Comey briefed President-elect Trump on a summary of the Steele dossier, even though it was, according to his June 2017 testimony, salacious and unverified, while the FISA application relied on Steele's past record of credible reporting other than unrelated matters. It ignored or concealed his anti-Trump financial and ideological motivations. Furthermore, Deputy Director McCabe testified before the committee in 2017 that no surveillance warrant would have been sought from the FISC without the Steele dossier information. So a document that was politically motivated, paid for by Clintons and the Democratic Party, found to be full of BS, was used to tap Trump. Remember when he said he was wiretapped? And the media was like, oh, wiretap. And they made fun of him. This has proven that they were listening in on him. They went and secured warrants with a faulty dossier, a dossier filled with political motives rather than honest reporting and truth. See what happens when you're the enemy of the swamp, ladies and gentlemen? When you're the enemies of the swamp, they take you out, man. They try to really hard. As we continue, the FISA application also mentions information regarding fellow Trump campaign advisor George Papadopoulos. I hope I got his name right. I'm really bad with names sometimes, ladies and gentlemen. But there was no evidence of any coordination or conspiracy between Page and Papadopoulos. The Papadopoulos information triggered the opening of an FBI counterintelligence investigation in late 2016 by FBI agent Peter Strzok. Strzok was assigned by the Special Counsel Office to FBI Human Resources for improper text messages with his mistress. FBI attorney Lisa Page, no known relations to Carter Page, where they both demonstrated a clear bias against Trump and in favor of Clinton, whom Strzok also had investigated. Remember that? Remember they were investigating Clinton? Well, here's Strzok, who was one of the investigators on there, in her favor. He wants Hillary to be president. And that just wiped off the table. Remember that? The Strzok's Lisa Page text also reflected extensive discussions about the investigation, orchestrating leaks to the media and including a meeting with Deputy Director McCabe to discuss an insurance policy against President Trump's election. And that's it. That's the memo. When we look back at this and all the hype from the mainstream media and the politicians from the Democratic Party and the FBI and the Department of Justice, they were all saying that releasing this memo to the American people, making it available, was going to affect the national security of the United States. Everything I read to you, ladies and gentlemen, where does it affect the national security of the United States? It doesn't affect the security of the United States whatsoever. If you think there are parts in there that do reflect the national security of the United States, feel free to leave a comment in the chat room, or hey, even better, send me an email or even a video discussing your opinion. Make it a minute or less, please. We'll play it on the air if it's worth, discussion. Let me know what I'm missing here. What is part of national security that it so desperately had to be kept from the American people? I don't see it. What I see here is the Department of Justice, the FBI, the DNC, the Clintons didn't want this release because it directly points the finger at them for collusion against Donald Trump and him being elected president, or if he did become president, something to hamper his presidency. That's what I hear out of this, ladies and gentlemen. And 90% of this we had been talking about. It was probably last summer we spent most of the time on this. So if you want to go back to our archives, 2017 archives, and just search through, because we don't just stay, it's just not one topic normally here on the show. So if we have updates, we're just going to throw them into shows. And you need to listen every week, ladies and gentlemen, if you want fully updated stories. Because the information I get on Monday might be different than information that comes out on Wednesday. And I update that for you. Because I'm good, I want accurate information, ladies and gentlemen. I don't have a political bias towards Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton, the Republican Party, or the Democrat Party. Heck, you could have listened to the show last week, and I was all over the Republicans. You've heard me many times, all over the Democrats. I'm not a fan of those political parties. But what I see in this dossier, and you tell me if I'm wrong, ladies and gentlemen, feel free to do so. If you have a compelling case, I'll bring you on the show and we'll talk about it. But what I see in this memo is that there is plenty of proof that there was collusion between the FBI, the DOJ, the Democrat National Committee, Fusion GPS, the Steele dossier, and because they used all this information based on the Steele dossier, which is found to be a bunch of BS. And the FBI didn't bother to do any real checking into it. They probably go, he's been good for us before, so we'll just take this information. We don't care he's got ties to the Clinton campaign. And then they fired him after because the dossier was a bunch of BS. See, they don't fire somebody unless you screw them up, unless you give them faulty stuff, unless you don't do your job properly. So once they found out it was politically motivated, or they had no choice in finding out, because you got to think about that. They were like, well, this is going to be found out. We didn't cover our tracks well enough. We better fire this guy and make it look like we're trying to be an honest organization. The FBI. Here's an organization that has talked to the Boston bombers before they bombed, the San Bernardino shooter before he went on his rampage. They even had talks with the Vegas guy, from all indications. They have to talk to everybody. They're on the ball, ladies and gentlemen. They're all those millions and billions of dollars that go into the FBI budget and all that investigation. Boy, if you're investigated, I'm sure they'll get it right. They'll find a way to indict you, and we know now that the FBI doesn't mind taking information from uncredible sources, or at least don't check the sources, don't check the dossier to make sure it's credible information. You just run with it because they were politically motivated, Comey and a bunch of other people, to not have Donald Trump as president. They wanted Hillary. And now that I look back at all this, the whole hoo-ha over the FBI coming out and opening an investigation against Hillary, then saying nothing happened, then reopening it real quick and then saying nothing happened. It was all a game because I think they knew Trump was going to win. I'm pretty sure they knew Trump was going to win, and it was their way of just trying to make themselves look credible, and also a contingency plan to make Hillary look like, oh, she is so great of a person. This is what we get. That we have to trust these agencies. And let's not forget, ladies and gentlemen, the Department of Justice leader there. You remember her, lynch mob over there. She went and met with Mr. Clinton on an airport runway while all this stuff was happening. And then you see the people posting, frustrates me. And you can tell I'm a little wound up. But this is incredibly important information, ladies and gentlemen. We didn't learn anything new in these documents, at least anything new to the John Lebang Show listeners. This was pretty much spoken about over various amounts of shows. But now the mainstream public gets this information. And you still get the memes from the D's out there who don't read this document, won't spend any time reading this document, probably didn't come to the show because they didn't want to hear about this document, because as you saw in my promo, ladies and gentlemen, I was saying, come on, all you Democrats, and Republicans for that matter, come on, John McCain, everybody who was out there who's like on both sides of the aisle, I want you to come to the show tonight, and we're going to read the document. And then you can get rid of all your political biases, all the fake news that you've heard on both sides of the aisle, and we'll deal with straight facts about this memo and dossier. I have a feeling not many D's showed up tonight. Just have a feeling they didn't show up tonight, because if they took the time to read this on their own, which I don't know if they did, a good portion of them probably didn't. They'd rather get their news from a meme or maybe the Clinton News Network. Sorry about that, folks. I'm developing a cough, which if I get the flu and die, thank you for listening. I appreciate it. I mean, it's not to be made fun of. I was going to talk about the flu this weekend. More and more information comes out each and every day, so I do not want to be premature on this. I'll let the mainstream news tell you whatever to go get vaccinated. You know better by now. But this dossier is important in at least showing that the FBI, the Department of Justice, Fusion GPS, the Clinton campaign, and the DNC were colluding together to wiretap the Trump campaign and administration, I'm sure. I don't know if you don't know if that stuff has stopped, right? The White House could be bugged. There is a reason Trump has changed up who's protecting him. That's where I got to give Q Clearance some credibility there, because he was talking about when the Secret Service isn't guarding the president, who does the president have at his disposal? The Marines, huh? We got to take another quick break. We're long, folks. I am sorry. I don't know what we're going to talk about. We may continue with this because there's a lot more to talk about, but there are also the State of the Union we've got to get to. And